Generation 1. I happen to like it. See this? This is Pokemon Sapphire. It only happens to be one of my favorite Pokemon games, and it's also one of my most nostalgic Pokemon games. You know, in addition to Pokemon Blue, since, you know, Generation 1 is always nostalgic for people. If you played this game, you know, like I do, that Ludicolo and Sudowoodo have moves. I still haven't beaten this game. Actually, I've played less than an hour of it. Go figure. I don't have cases for them, but you bet your buttons that I have Pokemon Leaf Green and Pokemon Emerald. And I also have, my brother's copy of Ruby. Don't tell him. You bet I've played this game, and I love it. Check out the Generation 3 Pokemon I drew a few years ago. I don't know why I haven't finished it. It's great. I should finish it right now. Look, here's where Jirachi is supposed to go, but I haven't drawn it yet. Game Freak, why weren't these two Pokemon in Sun and Moon? What the heck? Look at my Generation 3 Pokemon cards. Look. Look it. It's Ammonite, and he's sad because another Ammonite has stolen its lover! Oh, poor little guy. Helix Fossil, don't be liking that. That's sacrilegious artwork. Game Freak, please make a Cradily plushie. I'll have you know that crinoids are animals, not plants. I don't know why Cradyli's grass type. Generation 3 is my favorite generation, and Ruby and Sapphire introduced a lot of my favorite Pokemon. But it also introduced some duds. I'd like to take this opportunity to list my top 6 favorite and least favorite Generation 3 Pokemon. Now, if we were to round this list out to a top 10 and worst 10, here's the Pokemon that would be on the bottom of the list. And here's the additional Pokemon that would be at the top of the list. With that out of the way, thank you for watching, and here's my 6th least favorite Generation 3 Pokemon. Celio used to take this spot on the list, but that all changed when I learned something about Gorebyss. Now, as it turns out, a whole bunch of people, I don't know why, a whole bunch of people think that Gorebyss is a dolphin. They think it's the dolphin Pokemon. Like, what? What? It's not a dolphin, you guys. It's not even remotely like a dolphin. It's clearly either a lamprey or some sort of ray-finned fish, such as an eel. There's no possible way that Gorebyss is a dolphin, so just forget about that. Otherwise, I've always found Gorebyss to be kind of an ugly Pokemon. I think the shell bras it's really dumb. Like, it's a ray-finned fish. It doesn't have breasts, so why does it have a bra? Especially when Huntail doesn't have a bra, and Clamperl doesn't have a bra, so what's the point of that? I don't really get it. And yeah, I always went with Huntail whenever I evolved Clamperl anyway, so I don't really care much for Gorebyss, but that's the number 6 spot. You know, I used to not care at all about Manectric. Didn't care for the design, never cared to use it in Sapphire version. It's one of the rare examples of a Pokemon from Sapphire that I really don't have much nostalgia for at all. But then I started getting into the Pokemon card game my freshman year of college, and I started seeing all this really cool Manectric artwork on the trading cards. There's a lot of really cool Manectric artwork out there. You should totally check it out. And I really started to liking this Pokemon. I found out about maned wolves, and they're cool, and it's cool that Manectric is a maned wolf. And then, when Alpha Sapphire came out, I decided to use an Electrike on my team. Evolved it into Manectric, started using Mega Manectric. It's become a mainstay on my team. I love it. It's one of my best Pokemon in Alpha Sapphire, and it's great. I can always rely on it in battle. It comes in handy in a lot of places. It's a wonderful Pokemon. That's the bottom line. Beldam is one of those Pokemon that really just exists in order for its other stages to have a 3-stage evolution line. It's weak, really hard to get, and has a really weird design. Both its Japanese name Damberu and its English name reference dumbbells, but I just don't get the connection at all. Beldam was also a bitch to catch in Pokemon Moon. I like Metang and Metagross, but Beldam just doesn't do it for me. Man, we're really getting into some of my favorite Pokemon. Shedinja is my favorite bug Pokemon and one of my favorite ghost Pokemon. I always thought its concept and gameplay were cool, but I really began to love it when I started to play the Pokemon trading card game my freshman year of college. The first deck I played at a tournament was a Jumpluff Shedinja deck, and I was really happy with it. I used the Shedinja on my team in Pokemon X and had a great time using it. Shedinja is a really cool Pokemon, and if you've never used one, I really recommend checking it out. I like to think that Gulpin is supposed to be a fluke, which is a clade of parasitic worms, but I don't have a lot of evidence for it. I like Swallow quite a bit, but Gulpin itself doesn't do much for me. It's just sort of there, and there are 770 Pokemon that I like better than it. I'll give Gulpin credit for being the Pokemon that in Pokemon X on my team made me realize how much I like using posing Pokemon. I have a lot to say about Claydol, but I've already said it in a video I made but never uploaded about my favorite Pokemon designs. I'll leave the praise for you to hear in that video, but for now, I'll just say that Claydol has one of my top designs of any Pokemon through Generation 7. It's just unlike any other Pokemon out there, save for Baltoy, of course. I briefly used one in the post-game in Pokemon Sapphire, but my real memories of Claydol come from Alpha Sapphire, in which it was one of my main team members. If I were to change something about Claydol, it would be its stats. Claydol has 2 laser cannons for arms, so you would think that its special attack stat would be very high, but it's not. Claydol specializes in physical attack, not special attack. This means it can't take advantage of moves it learns like Psybeam and Hyper Beam, and that just doesn't sit right with me, so I would give it a higher special attack stat. I've never really understood the point of Volbeat and Illumise. Female Illumise is spared from this list thanks to being a separate entry in the Pokédex and being slightly more memorable to me, but I'm sure we can all agree that male Volbeat and female Illumise are really the same Pokemon. I just don't get when you would ever use them. Who has honestly ever played through Hoenn with a Volbeat or an Illumise on their team? They kind of showcase Gen 3's team battles, but Plusle and Minun already exist to do that, and do so much better. Volbeat and Illumise also seem like wastes of Firefly Pokemon. They aren't part electric, part fire, nor part poison, and their designs are so cute and cuddly you'd think they came out of an old Silly Symphonies cartoon. Volbeat is the kind of Pokemon you catch, throw in your PC, and never use again. Problem is, Volbeat isn't rare, so there isn't even a thrill in looking for it. Man, I love Kyogre. I just have so many memories with it. Catching Kyogre was the first time I used an Ultra Ball to catch the big legendary Pokemon of the game rather than a Master Ball. It was hard, really hard. It might have taken me hours to accomplish. I don't know, I just remember it taking really long. I used that Kyogre to power through the Elite Four. I really struggled with the Elite Four in Pokemon Sapphire, but after hours of grinding and lots of berries and ethers, I was able to press through the Elite Four and the champion with my Kyogre and its sheer cold attack. It's the only time a legendary Pokemon has ever really become a member of my main team. Since then, Kyogre was also the first and only Pokemon I ever leveled up all the way to level 100, if we ignore exploiting the missing no glitch in Pokemon Blue. True to form, my rematch with Kyogre in Alpha Sapphire took my breath away. It was a real challenge to catch, even though I was so much better as a player since I played Sapphire in elementary school. Beyond just the memories, Kyogre has to be the coolest legendary Pokemon. It's an Orca, which means it is currently the only Dolphin Pokemon. I'm a big fan of dolphins, so it's really cool that an Orca got to be a legendary Pokemon. Those massive flippers are awe-inspiring. It's got a great color, and its rivalry with Groudon and Rayquaza is still my favorite legendary Pokemon backstory. Seriously, I love this thing. Wonderful Pokemon. Torkoal just always bothers me. When I was a kid, I thought it was dumb because we already had 3 turtle Pokemon. But now that I'm older and wiser, I understand that it is a tortoise Pokemon, not a turtle. I really dislike its head and the banded design of its head, neck, and limbs. It has always bugged me that Torkoal is a pure fire type. Its design screams fire rock type, which is what I always expect when I fight it, so I become very frustrated when I find my fighting attacks not being super effective against it. Overall though, I just don't really get the point of Torkoal. It doesn't evolve into anything, but it is really mediocre to begin with. It might have been cool if it were a big Pokemon, but it's not. It's kind of small. It also bothers me that Ash had one in the anime, even though I didn't really watch the advanced seasons. I just don't really like Torkoal. Crinoids are some of my favorite animals, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that Cradily is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Like Kyogre, Cradily was a member of my main team in Pokemon Sapphire, and though training Lileep was tedious at times, I really enjoyed my time with Cradily. It's just such a cool Pokemon design, really the best and most creative of the fossil Pokemon. I like Lileep too, they're both just really great. Cradily also makes me mad though, because like Girafarig, there is just no merchandise of Cradily. In fact, there's even less merchandise. It's really hard to show my love for Cradily, which is a shame, because I think this Pokemon goes under the radar for a lot of people. For me though, it is sitting right up there in God tier. I just think the typing is dumb, because it isn't even a plant. I know it is cliché, but Luvdisc really is my least favorite Gen 3 Pokemon. If you have watched my previous lists, you will know my hatred for forgettable water Pokemon, and Luvdisc is the very worst of them all. It almost became memorable in Gen 5, but Alomomola wound up being a standalone Pokemon rather than Luvdisc's evolution, which I think is a real shame. Like some other Pokemon on this list, I'm not sure what reason the designers had for making Luvdisc in the first place. It is only really good for one thing, farming for heart skills for move tutors, but there are and have been better Pokemon to use for that purpose, such as Paris and Parasect for mushrooms. Luvdisc just has nothing going for it. It is an incredibly weak Pokemon and has such a lackluster design. I hate to rail on the poor thing, but there's really no reason to ever justify ranking it higher. I love Torchic. It's probably the most nostalgic Pokemon for me out of all of them. Torchic was the Pokemon I started out with in Pokemon Sapphire, but I didn't like Combusken or Blaziken at all, so for the first time I just never evolved Torchic. For more than 60 levels, I stuck with Torchic as a member of my main team. I still remember his moveset exactly. Flamethrower, Rock Tomb, Aerial Ace, and Mirror Move. His name was Barnhouse. It was the very first fire starter I ever went with. I normally prefer grass and water starters, so going with a fire starter is really rare for me. I would have gone with Torchic again in Alpha Sapphire, but I instead used the event Torchic they released with Pokemon X as a member of my main team in X. Just like in Sapphire, I never evolved it. I think it might even have the same moveset, and I believe it is at level 54 if not 64. Back in those days, when I was playing through Sapphire, my grandpa had a stroke, so we traveled all the way to Wisconsin from Arizona and stayed at his house while my mother tended to him at the hospital. That was the first time I started listening to portable CD players, and I still remember which CDs I listened to all the time while grinding in Sapphire with my Torchic. 25 Romantic Moods, and The Best of Rosalini. That was also when I first got my Game Boy Advance SP, so I also remember playing Pokemon Sapphire at night with the backlight on, awed at how the Game Boy device finally had a light of its own. Torchic always brings me back to those days when I got so strangely attached to my digital pet. I love Torchic. All of this is why it is my favorite Gen 3 Pokemon. Thank you for watching. Here is a summary of the two lists. As I said at the beginning of the video, Generation 3 is my favorite Pokemon generation, so the top 6 are real knockouts, while the bottom 6 aren't the worst bottom 6 you'll see me give for a generation. What always impresses me about Generation 3 is that back when it came out, it definitely was not my favorite generation. But over time, as I learned more about the different Gen 3 Pokemon and got to know them, they've really become my favorite set of Pokemon, higher than the first and second generations. We'll start turning to my lesser favorite generations next time. If you liked this video, please give me a like. If you have a favorite Generation 3 Pokemon, or if you disagree with my list, or if you have a Gen 3 story to share, please comment about it below. I'm also happy to get any suggestions on ways that I can improve my YouTube videos, even though I'm a video editing novice. Thank you again for watching, and have a wonderful rest of the day. I recorded this entire video in my underwear, and you didn't even know!